the program shortly. We would like to ask for your cooperation to be seated and please do set the silent mode on your mobile devices. Your cooperation is much appreciated. For your information, translation devices are available near the entrance of this meeting room. Thank you. All right, so welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. Let's see, just to check the presence of everybody here. Let me see. Oh, I have a chair. All right, so welcome back, and I hope you had a great lunch, a satisfying lunch with lots of chats. Can I hear just a round of applause for everyone who is here right now, sharing your time and your energy? Welcome to the 5th Jakarta Investment Festival Summit 2025. My name is Sophie Navita, and it is a great honor to be your moderator at this event. Your presence and your support today, totally crucial to making this event a resounding success. The JF Summit is the Jakarta Provincial Government's annual investment forum, and it is dedicated to promoting investment opportunities and positioning Jakarta as a global investment friendly city. So, ladies and gentlemen, we now move to the most exciting parts of today's discussion. Today, the theme is going to be on Jakarta's future creative industry, the strategy to thrive. So, our session today will focus on how film, music and fashion can drive Jakarta's economic growth and global identity. So, just to give you a bit of a context today, the creative industry in Indonesia is undergoing significant growth and development, whereas in 2024, Jakarta's creative economy sector contributed nearly 11% to the city's gross regional domestic product. And this marks a steady increase from 2023 when the sector's contribution stood at 10.51%. So from 10.51 to 11. So the Road to Jakarta's 500th anniversary initiative is a critical point for Jakarta at this point to continue fostering an investment climate that is not only economically competitive, but also culturally friendly, and I like this word, inclusive, and socially impactful through the Global City for Impact initiative. Jakarta aims to establish itself as a premier investment destination, offering significant value for the future of its creative industry. All right, so our discussion today will explore strategies to connect local talent with international audiences, attract investment, and strengthen Jakarta's role as the creative hub. And today's session, we will conduct it in a fireside chat format for 45 minutes, followed by a question and answer session with the audience, which is you. So, moving on, please bear with me. I have a telephone directory of cue cards here. Anybody still remember what a telephone directory looks like? No, you're all from Gen Alpha? Nice. I'm from Beta, just like right behind you. So to kick off today's discussion, we will start with a quick icebreaker. So you will see a QR code, I believe, on your seats. Do we have them on your seats? Yes. Yeah, okay, so please prepare to scan the QR code. They will appear on the screen shortly. There we go. It's also on the brochures that are at your seats, but you can look at the one here. This will allow you to access and fill out a question. So everybody, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to 60 seconds to complete the scan, 30 being the fastest, 60 being if you are distracted by your WhatsApps, by your WhatsApps, Mba at home, or maybe, your, Gojek or Grab apps that needs to be addressed first. And when we're done, I will start seeing the questions on the screen, on my screen. Okay, wah. Citayam Fashion Week, give us your thought about this. Biasa aja. Okay. Berikutnya, let's see. Do we have another question? Oh. I like this poster. I like this poster. We look like a Hong Kong music group coming over to Ancol to do our show or something. Ulang scan lagi. All right, so can we scan it once again? And I think it will bring you to our next question. Let's see. So Citayam was the first question. We'll see if we have anything on movies or music for that matter, or anything from the creative industry. Okay. I'll start seeing questions and your answers that have been keyed in. Here we go. If you could remake, click please. Thank you. If you could remake Sidul, a popular Betawi character in this era, how would it be? Hello? What does that mean? Okay, if you could remake Sidul in this era, how would it be? Hello? Okay, Ondel? Sombong amat. The S needs to be very intense. You'd make it a fashionable one. That's interesting. Savvy? Kid phone? New generation duel. He should be Gen Z. Tukang insinyur, okay. It should be animated, someone says. Cartoon, make a younger one. Angga Yunanda. All right. There we go. Monas. Filmed in Monas. Is that what that means? Influencers. Dul has to be an influencer? Is that what that means? He will probably start the sinetron by going, jujur ya guys, nggak pernah nyangka. Oplet, okay. Tanjidor. Oh, will he remain pacar Sarah or Swami Zainab? That is the question of the century. And yeah, make it into a great movie by Mas Angga. Okay. All right. I think we've read everything. He should be a savvy insinyur. He should be on his iPad. Okay, he should be a playboy? What is the most essential aspect to develop creative industry in Jakarta and Indonesia? Do I have to know? Well, yeah, you're here. Incentiveness, inclusivity, yeah. Let's see. What is the most essential? Yo! Up to date, embracing the culture, incentive from Pemprov to create industry. Openness, yes. Balance, AI. Convenience and safety. I'd like to elaborate on that a bit more. Trendy, okay. Consistency, yes. Balance, capital. Let's see. No corruption in every area of our life, please. Comprehensiveness. Global access, yes. Yes, yes, yes to that. New genre, okay. Ooh, what am I not seeing? What am I not seeing? What am I not seeing, guys? Can anybody? Tax and import rules, okay. Integrated IPs, yes, let's talk about IPs. Togetherness. Fiscal incentives, there we go. Familiar with Chitayam Fashion Week? Give us your thought about this. We're back to Fashion Week. Someone says biasa aja. And someone says yes. Kampungan. Kambukan. Kampungan. Local proud. Rebellions. Depok's dude. Oh. Someone's competitive. Civil society movement. Revolutionary. Cool. Desa. Sapa iki desa? Only +62, oh, probably means only +62 can come up with ideas like this, yeah? Quite the FOMO. Enggak. Enggak. TikTokable. So Gen Z. Chaos. Chaosnya K-E-Y-O-S. Chaos. All right. Okay, are we done? We have more? Thank you, everybody, for your participation. All right, so I'm sure, just like me, you are already more than ready to meet with our panelists. So before I invite them on stage, I will just read their names, and then they will come up together as a group and be seated. Okay, how does that sound? Good? Okay, let's go. So our panelists for today, Robbie Wahyudi, Chairman of Jakarta Creative Economy Committee, or KEJKT? KEJKT or KEJKT? Ke Jakarta. Oh, I thought it was KEJKT 48. No? Angga Dwi Masa Songko, founder and CEO Visinema Group. A longtime friend, this one. Dewi Gonta, President Director of Java Festival Production. And Svida Ali Shabana, CEO GC Media Group, Global Creative Media Chairman, Jakarta Fashion Week. All right, welcome everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Can we test our mics before we? Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. Okay. I'm so glad nobody blew into the microphone like it was a pisang goreng panas or something. But thank you guys. So let me just read their short bio, although it's easy for you to look them up. First of all, we have Robbie Wahyudi. So everyone, let's give a warm welcome to Robbie Wahyudi. Robbie is one of those names you will hear about a lot when you talk about pop culture and creative IP, and well, naturally, because he has over 20 years of experience in a brand activation and pop culture, which started out as a local marketeer company, escalated because Robbie has led major projects such as the official DC Comics Batman 75th anniversary. Yep, the Warner Brothers one, everybody celebrated. We remember that one. And then worked with global brands like Angry Birds and DreamWorks, How to Train Your Dragon, Masha and the Bear, to name a few, to Indonesia Comic Con. So Robbie took things to the next level by creating Danumaya Dipa, that's right, an IP think tank agency focused on helping creators develop and commercialize their intellectual property. Until today, Robbie continues to dedicate his energy on strengthening Indonesia's creative economy and championing local creators. Don't be stingy with your applause. Thank you. All right, moving on next. Let me introduce to you Angga Dwi Masa Songko. A filmmaker, storyteller, and an entrepreneur, Angga has been shaping Indonesia's creative scene in a very big way, in his own way. He's also the founder and CEO of Visinema, a Jakarta-based studio known for bringing bold and heartfelt stories to life. Angga has directed some of Indonesia's most beloved films like Cahaya dari Timur, Beta Maluku, Surat dari Praha. Nanti kita cerita tentang hari ini, which was even an acronym at that point. It was hashtag NKCTHI, right? Mencuri Raden Saleh and 13 bom di Jakarta. Oke, 13 bom di Jakarta. So I am a fan of his work and his craft. It just beautifully blends cinematic crafts and social culture themes. And this makes Angga as one of the country's most influential filmmakers of today. Let us not forget 2024 when the movie, okay, it's not Jumbo because it was Red Jumbo. When Jumbo came out, yeah, it broke the records as the most watched Indonesian film ever. Please, yeah. I mean, how do you even get there? How do you even get there? A true milestone for storytelling, if you ask me. Because if you read his CV, he always says storyteller. So we'll probably ask him a bit more on that in a bit. So please help me welcome Angga Dwi Sasongko. Dewi Gonta, President Director of Java Festival Production. Dewi Gonta is the President Director of Java Festival Production, organizer of world-class international music festivals in Indonesia. With over 2 decades of experience in event management, international concerts, and creative economy development, she also serves as a commissioner in companies dedicated to environmental innovation and as head of program and investment at the Indonesian Music Promoters Association. Can we give a round of applause for Dewi? Last but not least, Svida Ali Shahbana. Svida is the CEO of GC Media Group, the force behind Dewi Magazine and Jakarta Fashion Week, one of the biggest fashion events in Southeast Asia. Svida has spent her career championing women's empowerment and creativity, helping thousands of women entrepreneurs through Femina Wanita Wirausaha. Nurturing local fashion talent through Indonesia's fashion forward, with many designers now going international. Just a few minutes ago, we were chatting a bit about this, about Indonesian designers that she took to Paris just a few months ago, last week over some pisang goreng that she got to eat and I couldn't because the committee was already calling out to my name. We have to get ready on stage, so okay. Did you save some for me? No? You ate everything? No, not either. Oh, not either, okay. Oh, okay. Svida also co-founded Endeavor Indonesia and currently serves on the UN's Conscious Fashion and Lifestyle Network Advisory Committee. Svida Ali Shahbana. So we're going to start this discussion with, like I said earlier, fireside chat without the hot chocolate and marshmallows, since we live in a tropical climate country. So let me just start with Mas Robi at the end, yeah, because we introduced you first. So how do you see the potential for the creative and entertainment industry's development in Jakarta these days? You can be honest.
Right, so thank you so much for the invitation. Hello again, my name is Robi. This is a very tough question to just start the day. Looking back at Jakarta creative industry, I do believe that the center of the creative business is still in Jakarta. But although Jakarta has like maybe 80% of the business, the other creator from other places such as Bandung, Surabaya, Bali, and so on brings a lot to the table. So business cannot thrive without creativity in the creative economy sector. But I still do believe that we are incomparable with other cities in Southeast Asia in terms of creative industries.
Okay. Um, well, then, what areas do you think need to be improved with your experience and what you have experienced through the years?
I think still the locomotive of the creative sector is still film and music. By far, they are the biggest industries. Which what we so call industry is the ecosystem, the player, the investors, the market is there. I mean, others is following up like games and animation, but film and music is still the number one, number two. They are like catching up each other.
Okay, so Masanga, what would be the challenges that you are facing now since he mentioned film and music? I will go on to ask Dewi after this, but what are the challenges you are facing?
I think recent years we see a lot of shift. Jakarta, of course, as the biggest city in Indonesia, with the infrastructure, with the buying power, it's still the biggest market. But recent years, we see other cities, they become a solution for production, especially for films and animation. Like, for example, like Jumbo, most of our animators actually work outside Jakarta.
As in location-wise,
Yeah,
out of Jakarta.
out of Jakarta,
Okay.
like in Malang, Bandung, Jogja, Semarang.
Why is this?
I think because, of course, in animation industry, the industry is still in the very early stage. So it's lack of investment, of course. So most of the most of the creator live in the cities where the living cost
Is lower.
is lower.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it also happens in film production, for example.
Yes.
Nowadays, most of the film, the Indonesian film shot not in Jakarta.
Right?
Like, for example, Jogja now become significant base for,
For movie
film
productions, yeah.
movie production and also filmmakers. Bali become the center for most of the expat for movie production.
Right.
So Jakarta lost or its um, um, attract lack of traction because of now we see the cost for production in Jakarta is
Too high.
too high. It's not competitive. So that's why I think that what needs to be offer from the government, it's incentive to the industry. Maybe tax, for example. Like if you see Vancouver, for example, they have specific incentive for visual effect and animation. So that's why most of Hollywood production for visual effect and animation goes to Vancouver. Or if you take a look on Atlanta,
Yeah.
nowadays Atlanta become the center of Hollywood production
Production.
because shooting in Atlanta is way more cheaper than shooting in Los Angeles, for example. So I think that's how Jakarta, should adapt because it's in terms of investment, it's not only become the place to sell your product, but how to maintain the production in this city. Because the production itself, I think it's the only way to create the trickle-down economy.
And we haven't even touched on the traffic, yeah. When we have to shoot in Jakarta, I think that's another challenge on its own.
And also ganjil genap.
Also Gage, right? That's another thing. Wow.
Because in some
Areas,
some days
yeah.
maybe some of my crews and some of my talents late
Because of that.
because of ganjil genap.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So now from the music industry, Dewi, could you point out what challenges you face actually big concerts still Do they still happen in Jakarta, or actually you shift to Tangerang? It sounds like it's Jakarta, but it's Tangerang.
Tangerang. Well, we're moving next year
Okay.
to Nice, which is in Pantai Indah Kapuk, uh, in hopes of a bigger venue. Hopefully, we'll make it a bigger event. You
That's
know,
Tangsel, no? That's Kabupaten Tangerang,
Tangerang.
right? Yeah, it's not
Tangerang.
Jakarta.
Yeah, because we've been in J-Expo for 15 years, so we feel we needed a change. But despite that, the past 20 years has been in Jakarta. Do a lot of concerts happening? Yes, it still happen. Question is, are they making profit this year?
Are
That
they?
should be questionable. I think just in general, market this year has been quite slow. Mind you, Jakarta is the only place where we can do big shows. That alone is already very expensive. I'm sorry, Mas, this has nothing to do with venue. There are people from the venue, but venue is quite expensive. Even if you use one that is partly owned by the government, it's still expensive. If you use one that is partly owned by the government, you might be pushed out on the date that you have booked, for example.
Why? Pushed
You
out?
know, for reasons is, I'm not gonna say here, but you know, maybe there are other agendas coming in. You
But
know,
that has happened before.
that has happened many times before to others, to other events. It's been on the news, you know.
Okay.
The thing is, when you move venues, you move layouts, you move people. People that has booked hotels around the venue has to move. You know, it's a lot of different stuff. It's not just about moving a venue. You know, capacity is different. You know, infrastructure, supporting facilities are different. You know, so that still happens. I think just anywhere in Indonesia, if it's partly government owned facilities, for example. So again, yes, venue is very expensive. Production is very expensive. If we talk of incentives, I have to agree. We're very much dependent on sponsors. Events in Indonesia or music events in Indonesia are very much dependent on sponsors. Why is that? Because you got to compensate your costs, and so your ticket price can be less pricey. If we talk about festivals like Coachella, or you know, they sell their tickets $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, you know, over a weekend. We can never do that here. So if we want to do a festival of that scale and keep the pricing low, then we need sponsors. So incentive for sponsors, for example, would help. So if they sponsor the festival, you give them corporate incentive, you know, in terms of tax. You know, that would be an example. You know, things like that would then encourage, you know, brands to support events such as ours, you know, whatever the event is. I mean, that's just one example. In other countries, you know, the entertainment tax goes back to the industry, you know, development of the particular industry. For example, entertainment tax goes back into development of music, live music, you know, depending on, you know, what you do. So there are certain things that you can do to support the event to be better. You know, I'm proud to say that compared to surrounding countries, you know, Jakarta or Indonesia in general has most music festivals. You can compare to the neighboring countries. That is why most of them come to Jakarta to see the festivals, you know, as option. So yeah, that's part.
Thank
what I
you.
can say.
I wish we had a whole day here on this. I don't think 45 minutes is going to cut it, guys. Right? Yeah, it's not going to cut it. Mbak Svida, so okay, so now from the fashion industry, yeah, what challenges do you face? I know we have a line of amazing Indonesian designers. Lately, their business scales have even escalated. I've seen companies which probably just a few years ago you would have seen them in bazaars, local bazaars, and then now, poof, they're popping up everywhere, even owning flagship stores in big malls. Tell us what your challenges are.
Well, I don't look at it as challenges. I'm looking at it as opportunities. Fashion in Indonesia is growing because of schools, because of capitals, because of shopping malls. Those shopping malls are bigger and they need tenants. And so all this equation makes it growing constantly. And this creative force, let's see, each label, if they work in the past, like 10 years ago, they work more like me, myself, and I as a designers. But these are the story of 10, 20 years ago. These days, we see many successful labels because they have the operating director, because they have the marketing director, because they have the creative director, which usually the name of the label is the creative director. But when we look at Mashiro, Mashiro is a label because the founder have vision. They are not designers. When we look at Nagita Slavina, I told you, she has a country as her followers, like 76 millions. How many countries is under 76 millions?
Yeah.
And
True.
you think that she can work. I saw her. She works. She works with her team, with her designing team. So she has followers. She has creative team. She has operation team, etc., etc.
She
So-
actually knows what she's doing. and this is
Yes.
what- yeah.
And she steams.
Wow.
Nyetrika.
Yeah. She steams her own garments. You saw that firsthand.
Yes.
Okay.
So I just came back from Paris, as I mentioned. I was like, okay, there is this Madame Nagita, and then probably with her troops, and probably her troops is working. Nope. To my surprise, she steams. I was like, oh, okay. And she talks to buyers. So all this creative force is something that, of course, can be accelerated. How do we accelerate? These are all growing from tadi cerita me, myself, and I sekarang menjadi label company. But then they need exposure to the next level, meaning growing international, meaning I want to be like Zara. How can I be like Zara? Zaranya Indonesia aja deh. Sekarang ini kalau kita ingat cotton ink.
Right.
Cotton ink comes from jualan scarves di Bright Spot Market. We saw that, and Jakarta Fashion Week offered them, hey, do you want to join a program called Indonesia Fashion Forward, where you will get world-class mentor? And then they said, we're not interested for international market. We want to be the top shop of Indonesia. I was like, oh, okay, itu nggak salah juga. So they got the mentorship, and look where they are now.
Now.
Those program is bloody expensive, and it was supported by a minister who understands how to cultivate a label to become big. It's about mentorship. It's about having the right mentors, world-class mentor. Nggak ada di Indonesia yang udah jadi world-class. So we are lucky we got like a whole team of Center Fashion Enterprise namanya, who taught us to the Indonesian labels, and that was funded by Ibu Mari Pangestu, an economist who understands investing a label for $20,000 sounds expensive. But if you see where Cotton Ink now from Jualan Scarves, if you see Peggy Hartanto now becoming a world-class label, those are because they were exposed with the right education at the right time. And I wish I can do more of that. Of course, like everyone here, we live from sponsors. Sponsors wants to have the return of investment now, kalau perlu kemarin. And so we provide Jakarta Fashion Week with real estate of Papan, with space kita kasih nama. But those are for sponsors, they are happy, their products are exposed, lipsticknya dipakai oleh model, but they don't want to invest in the name of unknown designers menjadi world-class designer. That needs government. And ya, aku belum bisa menemukan seorang menteri Mari Pangestu lagi.
Okay.
But thanks to Jakarta, now Jakarta this year helping us with Jakarta Fashion Week, where the funding to cultivate the designers to bring abroad. Tidak seluruh program of Indonesia Fashion Forward, tetapi program marketing membawa Indonesian label keluar. Of course, mempunyai tanggung jawab besar, jadinya kurasi yang ketat, and then training, mentorshipnya, how of them to face international buyers, to pitch, to prepare lookbook, line sheet, and the right racks, presentation, conversation, discipline, dan sebagainya. Dan thankfully, successful lagi. I brought 12 labels, everyone got orders. Not from the big like Larry Nash Sente department store or Saks Fifth Avenue, karena itu bayarnya mereka 3 bulan, 6 bulan. Itu pun kalau beruntung dibayar.
Mundur.
Mundur kayak di Jakarta juga
I
kalau
don't
department
like
store.
paying mundur, you
Yeah.
know, it's not fun.
Enggak. Jadinya
That's heavy.
mereka kerja with concept store all around the world. And the orders are small, but it is celebrating creativity from Jakarta.
And it's a progress still.
Yes. And that's the kind of program that we need, whether that's musicians, whether that's for film, how we can bring ourselves to the world-class level. If we look at Coca, Bangkok sekarang really copying the blueprint of Coca. Menjadi namanya, kalau nggak salah TACA ya, Thailand Creative Center Agency. Blatantly copy Coca. Kenapa kita enggak sih, gitu loh. Kenapa kita ada Kementerian Kebudayaan? Loh, kok gue jadi nggak boleh.
That it's fine, really. It's fine. Right now, they're over at Sultan having another conference. Yes, the music conference. We can probably bring this there.
No, if you look at Coca looking at it as that is the creative industry under the cultural minister. And the creative industry is moved by the people in the industry together with the agencies of the government. Maunya Bekraf begitu. Tapi Bekraf juga ujungnya juga tidak jalan, entahlah karena internal politiknya. Tapi kita ini mestinya bersatu secara
So
industri.
it's okay to go that direction?
Ya, mau nambahin? Mau nambahin? Silahkan mau
Angga
nambahin.
Dwi Mas Sasongko, are you ready for me to
Yuk tambahin.
highlight that area?
But yes, a lot of things can be done. Even like, okay, so I just talked about the industry.
Right.
What about the craft?
What about craft?
What about our heritage? Kalau craft kita di-celebrate sebagai craft doang, itu bakalan jadi barang museum. Kalau craft kita dipikirkan menjadi barang modern, I mean think of penenun yang dengan setengah mati 3 bulan cuma bikin 1,3 kali 3 meter piece of cloth.
One.
Kain Palembang yang kita pakai kalau ada kawinan saudara itu artinya makainya sekali dalam 3 tahun.
Yeah.
Kenapa enggak itu dibuat menjadi muffler? Artinya
Like a
scarfnya
scarf,
cowok, ya. Itu kan jadinya dia dari frame yang 1,3 kali 3 meter bisa jadi 9 muffler. Nggak tahu ya, moga-moga benar ngitungnya.
9 to 10 mufflers.
Ya,
Yeah.
gitulah kira-kira.
Yeah. Lebar berapa
Atau-
Bu? Udah kayak di tukang kainnya.
Atau misalnya kenapa enggak dijadiin potongan bantal. Bisa jadi bantal mahal banget kan?
Oh, the
50
cushions, the
kali
fancy
50
cushions.
cm. Jadi 2 kali 3 jadi bisa 6. So instead of yield one fabric seharga 3 juta dalam 3 bulan hanya 1, dia bisa bikin 10 bantal. 10 bantal yang mungkin setiap bulan dia bisa langsung jual 4, dapat uang. Nah, that kind of development we need catalyst. Apakah pemerintah? Not necessarily. Could be society movement. For example, Cita Tenun Indonesia, Toba
Toba Tenun.
Tenun, Amai Setia di Bukit Tinggi. Orang-orang Padang pada pingin balik kampung, pada pingin berjasa untuk kampungnya, bikin kembali ke Amai Setia, membangun kembali, membawa relevan tenun Padang, embroidery
Right.
dari Padang daripada dipakai selendang yang atau jadi taplak meja itu, taplak meja kamar tamu, bisa jadi aksesori baju, jadi bisa jadi aplikasi baju. Itu kan bordirnya bagus banget, but is how do we bring that to relevancy? Who will help them to do that? Seluruh Indonesia gede loh. Dekranas dan Dekranasda tentunya mempunyai peran dan semoga mereka bisa mengengage ahli-ahli yang ngerti pasaran dunia butuh apa sih. Gitu. Jadi ya Mak, banyak sih kalau mau ditanyain challenges, tapi aku ngeliatnya sebagai opportunity kok.
Iya. Dekranasda as in the Regional National Crafts
Dewan
Council. Ya?
Kerajinan Nasional.
Dewan Kerajinan
Nasional.
ya.
Lalu Dekranasda Dewan Kerajinan Nasional Daerah.
Daerah.
Nah pertanyaannya kalau karena kita Kota Jakarta bisa ngapain Dekranasda? Nggak ada bordir.
Ya.
Tapi justru di sini adalah we are the capital of fashion. We are the capital of craft. Semua craft tradingnya di sini. Semoga kita bisa pertahankan itu. Jadi bagaimana mempertahankan trading dari semua warisan budaya kita di sini.
Right.
Nah, itu bisa terjadi kalau kita juga ngerti membawa itu ke relevansi masa kini.
Okay.
Jadi kalau indahnya kalau kurikulum sekolah dari fashion school ada satu semester mereka mesti kuliah kerja nyata di daerah
In
penenun.
villages,
Yes.
in rural areas.
Yes. Itu
Yeah.
yang dilakukan India.
Like
Jadi
KKN.
right. Jadi Indian designers itu pasti menguasai kain daerah dan mencintai kain daerah. Karena mereka harus spend 1 semester. Jadi aku tahu ada satu anak kaya gedongan di Mumbai, suruh ke daerah, ya udah bapaknya bangun WC sekalian.
For her, yeah.
For her and for the village.
For the village, yeah. You can't take the toilet back with you though now, yeah, after you've built it there. Yeah. Okay, so what you're saying right now will have to involve or include Menteri Pendidikan.
Yeah,
Yeah?
semuanya. I mean, it has to be to build a nation of celebrating our heritage.
Kemendikbud.
It takes Kemendikbud, it takes Ekraf, it takes kebudayaan. Sekarang jadi makin banyak kementeriannya. Apa namanya pariwisata dan sebagainya.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to touch a bit on IPs, yeah. Mas Robi, back to you. The question for you is about what actions are ke Jakarta, am I saying it right? Ke Jakarta, yeah. Taking to improve awareness, accessibility, and enforcement of IP rights for Jakarta's creators and businesses.
Right, thank you. Komite Craft Jakarta or Jakarta Creative Economy Committee, we are positioning ourselves as a think tank for the local government of Jakarta. So we are not trying to replace anyone or any player, but now our main focus is to build a data, a measurement for the impact of the economy on creative industry in Jakarta. So we collect a lot of these challenges in Jakarta amongst the creative industry players. We know that they have issue with, like Mas Angga, Mbak Dewi, Mbak Svida said that, like incentive, like tax rebate, venues and everything, right? But we actually identify that there's this gap between the decision maker or the government or the DPRD or whoever and the creative industry players. Now the government doesn't believe, they don't see the economic impact yet because they don't have the data of, if you put $1, it can actually becomes $10. We identified as 3 ways on collecting the data because the impact of the creative industry can be direct, indirect, and induced. So let's say a concert like Coldplay in Gelora Bung Karno, maybe 15 to $20 million on revenues and everything, but that's the direct, but the indirect impact and then the induced impact, considering on that just one occasion, the hotels, the food, the fashion that been bought by the tourists, and everything, transportation, Grab, it's like really big. So no matter what, these creative industry players, they need to show that if the government invests $1, they can actually multiply it by 100 times. Now, those data, we believe that can actually bring a stronger statement that the local government needs to put more effort on the creative industry build up.
Yes, Mas Angga.
Yeah, but what Robbie trying to address, I think the most issue about that is the capacity of the industry to create sort kind of flywheel monetizations. So if we want to talk about IP business, then it must create like I said, the flywheel of monetizations, and that's what we don't have at this point in Indonesia. So, for example, like IP like Jumbo, we have almost 11 million 11 admission in the theatrical release. So it gives a lot of push for the ecosystem to see the potential and to see the value. But if Jumbo only has like 2 million or 3 million, I don't think we can create this big flywheel.
Yeah.
So that's why we need to change the perspective first.
Okay.
The perspective of like, okay, we're talking about creative economy,
Yeah.
but actually we're talking about cultural economy.
Yeah.
It's, I think in this, in the recent years, our public policy see different, right? In creative economy, we always talk about, we put the GDP as the measure,
Benchmark. Yeah.
the benchmark. I don't think it won't work, right? So our GDP,
You don't think it will work?
it won't work.
It won't work.
If we only think about that perspective, then creative economy or our, I like to say cultural economy never be the priority of our political stance, for example. Karena at the end of the day, the one who dig the land, cut the trees, bomb the oceans is give GDP higher than the creative economy.
Yeah.
Tapi problemnya adalah how long, right? If we want to project Indonesia in the next 10, in the next 20 years, we need to find our way to see this intangible product, this intangible industry. It's something that will be our foundation in the future for our children, the growth frontier. So I think why cultural? Because it's not about using Jumbo shirts. It's not about buying Jumbo's ice cream. It's to believe that this story, this characters, this
The whole IP.
the whole
Yeah.
IP is something can define us as a nation, can define us as a society. Then we will, perceive the entire ancillary product become our part of our identity and part of our life. Then we can see the flywheel of monetizations bigger and bigger in
How do we
upcoming fortune.
How do you think we can communicate this though to the government in the simplest way
Okay.
that you can think of right now?
Saya harus edit sebentar di kepala
Okay,
saya.
we'll wait.
I've been advocating this for like a decade, right?
Yes.
Robbie knows.
But maybe, the way we need to think of it is it's a 360. When you create a Jumbo kan lagi ya, aku jujur nggak nonton. Tapi Jumbo pasti lagi ada cerita dia makan. Makan kan ada culinary-nya. That's touch upon culinary. Jumbo pakai baju, touch upon baju, touch upon. So that all circulatory that is touching, that becoming gaming. Gaming yang paling transposed ke seluruh dunia. Mungkin film akan bisa ditonton sampai akhirnya waterfallnya sampai ke Netflix dan sebagainya. Tetapi yang lalu terus dimainin, yang terus revenue-nya naik terus buat. Ini adalah gaming. Tetapi habis gaming kan ada apa lagi? Nah moga-moga ada makanan, ada rendangnya. Nah rendangnya menjadi cultural assets yang ikut terpopulerkan di situ.
No, I think the most, the moment for me is when I talk to some decision maker about intellectual property. They were saying, Pak, intellectual property itu jual rumah ya Pak? It's property,
Jadi memang
right?
problemnya ada di literasi.
Yeah,
harus saya bilang.
So we're busy like
Okay.
educating the
Yeah.
creators.
What
I have to
IP is all
address
about.
that the problem is in literacy, that our government doesn't literate about what is intellectual property. But I see in the last 10 years also, I can see the light in the tunnel, right? Jadi instead of kita berharap sama pemerintah pusat atau DPR untuk bikin public policy atau law
On IP.
on IPs yang drive the growth, we can start from the local government. Because local government, like in Jakarta, the budget of Jakarta also significant and the market is also big. Jadi kita bisa cari cara bagaimana it start from each region, then create sort kind of movements that hopefully will enlighten people in the top of our
Yeah, it
government. to
finally gets there. It's what
yeah,
you
it
mean,
finally
right?
gets there.
Finally
Karena
gets there.
misalnya contohnya animation become a economic driver for Jakarta, then maybe it will enlighten our finance minister to
Yeah.
berlakukan tax incentive for the whole country, for example.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, just to close, I mean, that's why the Jakarta Creative Economy Committee is now committed to create that white paper.
Okay.
We are talking with Kerni now, and we're talking with Bapeda also.
Yeah.
So what we want is every year we want to create that white paper to be presented. I mean, we need to use their language
Right.
to communicate this.
Yeah.
Because
We have a different lingo.
they have the different
It's
lingo.
obvious,
Because
yeah.
it's always number.
Yeah.
What are you like giving to the
Yeah.
tax?
What do I get out of this?
Yeah, so that's that data that we need to present them. Hey, this creative industry is like really big, so you need to invest.
Can we
more.
create? I know this is probably silly. Yeah. Can we create something as simple as, how they use influencers to define, like when you want to give meaning to something or to explain something? Because I feel like IP alone, not many people understand what it is and how far it can go and how far behind we are on this as an IP alone. IP is a legacy. I believe that to happen. Can't we come up with small fragments of reels, just influencers at their level, just giving them the information as a key opinion leader to
No,
like,
different
jujur
language.
ya guys, tadinya gue nggak ngerti IP itu apa. It starts with that, and then
but different language. They are looking at like macroeconomy, like numbers,
macro.
like how much the money can be get out of this industry. Like Mas
Right.
Angga said, if you just cut the trees and then make it into like palm oils,
Right.
you get like billion
Yeah,
billions of
yeah.
dollars.
But
Yeah,
then
in your
uh,
face, right?
Yeah.
Kita tuh
But then
kekurang-
we shall ask, like, when you leave Tokyo, when you leave Paris, what is in your memory? Is there creative industry? It's not about the financial centers that they have. It's about sushi. It's about
Macaron.
the Ginza with the fashion
Yeah.
line-up-nya,
Yeah.
atau macaronnya,
Macaron,
macaron dengan all the brand, semuanya itu all in the creative industry.
Or the Disney on
Jadi
Ice.
sebetulnya ya kalau gue pinginnya selalu narasinya adalah kenapa kita penting secara ekonomi value, mungkin bawa buku Jakarta Global City aja Anda bisa lihat, buku paling tipis adalah branding. Karena nggak terlalu ngerti, bukan nggak terlalu ngerti ya, tapi not so much focus in there karena mereka melihat secara ekonomi nggak besar. But actually, if they want to have this Jakarta, orang meninggalkan dengan memory of Jakarta, that would be the music, that would be the film, that would be the play, that would be the fashion, the labels. Kalau kita, if we look at Senayan City, yang di depan is Gucci, Bottega Veneta, bla bla bla. Itu Louis Vuitton segala macam. And mereka akan bilang, ya kalau begitu aja sih di Singapura juga ada.
Right.
But then if you see the country ada button scarves, ada Masari boutique dengan local labelsnya, then they will like close their eyes like, oh, I got really beautiful fashion products at that
From
price.
Jakarta, yeah.
I attended music atau musical atau play, and
I went to
those
the
are
Jumbo
like
play. I got the
quality.
playbook.
Yeah, see,
Aku tambahin ini kali ya sedikit. So forecast by Price Waterhouse released September 2025. Kita bicara revenue aja ya. Revenue of live events 2020 was about $30 million. Predicted 2029 is 173. So the potential is there. We just need the government to admit that there is a potential there gitu. Itu baru yang dampak langsung. Belum yang tadi kita bicara dampak-dampak lainnya gitu. Contoh lagi kenapa Taka and Coca itu menjadi sangat important. So ini salah satu contoh aja ya bagaimana sebenarnya kalau kita support industri kita tuh bagus banget. Jadi ada musisi yang kalau main di Jakarta mungkin yang nonton cuma 20 orang. Very simple. Dia main di Malaysia, main di stadion nonton 12.000 orang, semua orang nyanyi. They come back, they pay taxes when they come back. Pada saat mereka dibayar,
Right.
mereka akan kembali membayar pajak gitu. Ada satu nama lagi artis, namanya Oslo Ibrahim. Dia di Jepang, di Billboard chart for 2 weeks, itu dia nomor 3 barengan sama Coldplay sama Ed Sheeran. Di sini dia hampir jarang sekali main. Jadi kan ini soft diplomacy. If we can just support them, have them go abroad, give them the funding they need so they can go there and talk about Jakarta and say this is what the country has, this is what Jakarta has gitu. Itu kayak sangat simple and they don't
But then they
even-
would need something to talk about though, Dewi, about Jakarta.
Yeah,
you know?
makanya, of course, they're gonna be like, I'm from Jakarta, udah, given.
Yeah.
You know, and then right away people know what Jakarta is, where Jakarta is. Orang kalau ngomong Bali mana gitu, gampang ya. Jakarta ada yang tahu, ada yang tidak gitu. Kan
I
ini
just
bisa salah satu cara kita juga bisa balik lagi ya. Apa ya, maksudnya spreading the words on what Jakarta has. Mind you, my own event gini, this is a very simple example. A group of Filipinos came originally 5 people. Now they come in and 40 people every year. Jadi setiap tahun dia ngajakin orang. Tapi kita perlu extra effort. So berarti kita harus promosi di Manila lebih banyak karena ternyata marketnya ada. We can't do it. We don't have the money to do it. So maybe it's part of the thing that the government can do. Masukin, do extra maybe on the countries that we would like to target supaya mereka masuk ke Indonesia gitu atau ke Jakarta ya, spesifik Jakarta dalam hal ini.
Yeah. Angga, do
Yeah.
you have something?
Yeah, and the advantage being someone who left behind is you don't need to invent something, you just to copy, right? That's simple. If you want to make the content industry thrive in the city like Jakarta, you go to Vancouver, learn from Vancouver, learn from Atlanta. Or if you want to create sort kind of comprehensive strategy to push our cultural product beyond our production base, you go to Japan and learn about Cool Japan, for example. And now they have Cool Japan Fund. Even they invest in local companies across Asia and make sure that they will be the distributor for Japanese creative and cultural product to beat South Korea. So there's a lot of example if you want to take a look on. Like in Taiwan, they have Taika. So why don't we just copy?
You guys have questions already in mind to shoot at our speakers. Do we still have time or can I open the question and answer now?
This is real fire chat, right?
We,
With fire.
we still have time? Oh, okay, so not yet question and answer. This is not fireside. This is fire at will. Chat, yeah, it's a bit different. Okay, let's just move on from IP. Probably from the audience, we will get questions that we can discuss about more a little bit later. I'd like to ask, go back to Dewi right now, yeah, for the Indonesian music promoters. what is the crucial role you see in your industry? Also, I would like to touch upon what's happening lately in the music industry about our copyright stuff and how, yeah, she's like, ooh, and how it's keeping promoters or EOs or even wedding organizers on their tiptoes about how to tiptoe around this whole collecting management society thing. And how do you do business like that? Yeah. So what's the critical role
Right.
that you play?
I think we're safe for the next one more month. I think nobody has to pay anything. I think that was announced.
We're safe for the
some
end of
month-
this
a
year,
month-
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but ideally for us, if we the promoters do not mind paying the 2%.
Okay.
So the regulation is for us promoters to pay 2%. We're a little bit, why do we have to pay the 1% out of invitation that we send out as compensation for sponsors, what have you? Because we don't get any income out of the invitations, for example. But for us to have a blanket agreement for a festival is better than doing direct licensing. I think direct licensing for an event like ours, we do about 100 shows in 3 days. So if we have to gather yeah, I can't. That's the thing. If we do 30 to 35 shows every day, having all the artists, send us their song list, which they will or will not change during the show. It's very difficult. So we need a blanket agreement. Basically, it doesn't matter what they sing. It's 2% out of ticket sales. That's very easy. Different countries have different policies. Some do it based on capacity. Some do it based on meter square. I know in France, for example, they give a little bit of a dispensation if or a different rate if you are festival and part of the festival association, because you bring in a lot of stuff. So you don't use the rate that is published on for regular events
It's
kind
like
of
a
thing.
special
Yeah.
rate for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are ways to do it. Either way, we're okay. But it's very hard for us to do direct licensing. It's practically impossible.
How do we communicate this to? Because I mean, people are
That's
all
the
over.
beauty. I think that's the beauty or not beauty, because when they had the discussion, none of the doers were, or none of the
Pelaku.
event, the promoters were involved in that discussion. It's basically
Musicians and
yeah,
musicians.
we're the palangkapan rita,
Yeah.
We're the one that has to pay, but
Yeah.
we're not in that conversation
Yeah,
on what
included,
policy
yeah.
needs. Yeah.
Right.
So that's a little bit sad, I think.
Yeah, but that's is that something that you worry about going forward? We know right now
Yeah,
as
I
we
think
speak, there's another conference happening
Yeah.
on music. Yeah.
I think everybody's worried. Mind you, there was another festival where they have to pay the 2% to WAMI, and then a company from elsewhere in Europe actually contacted the promoter directly, asking to be paid direct, in which it means direct licensing. So the promoter has to pay twice. You pay.
No,
Yeah,
twice.
because how do you separate the one act out of the 100 shows?
Right.
Because if the one act wants to
Yeah.
be paid direct, because we do 2% out of ticket sales. So we can't do both. It doesn't make sense.
It's just so
No.
much uncertainty.
No.
Wow. Okay. This is another thing altogether, though.
It's
yeah.
all fun.
Okay, the Java Festival production. Yeah, we know it's a very known music festival. We know Java Jazz. We probably go to it every year. Yeah, everybody gets tickets every year to go to Java Jazz. So, what recent initiatives have the Java Jazz Festival implemented that are designed to seek out and nurture our music industry? We would like to know.
Well, I think the fun part on Java Jazz in the past 20 years, we have always done collaboration between Indonesian acts and foreign acts. So foreign acts comes in a few days before. They sit down with an Indonesian act that we choose or offer for them to collaborate with. We've had acts being invited to the UK, do albums, to the US, fill in albums, things like that. We don't get anything out of it. It's basically just letting them know that we have all these talents available. Moving forward, the past 1 year, I feel a little bit cheated. So when I start negotiate with the artist, can you come? I'm making up a number, right? I only have $100. Okay, I'll come. $100 is fine. Yeah. I'm like, how many people? Two. I'm like, why are you only two people? No, it's fine. We'll come two people. Apparently now they already have contacts with Indonesian musicians, so they come in two packs, but they play with Indonesian players. So
Session
it's
players.
session players. So it's a lot of fun like that because then we were able to introduce. Now they're already communicating direct. Now they're already doing different things, on their own. So the purpose of the festival is not anymore just selling tickets and promoting music and promoting a festival of such in Jakarta, but it's now creating something more outside of the festival, which is the collaboration. So.
Okay. Wow, that's okay. She just shone a light on there, probably for any questions from the audience. If you could just write it on your phones and be ready to shoot it out at us as we open the question and answer. I think do we still have time? We do have time. Okay. So I just feel like it's 45 minutes, but it's not. This is fun. They're probably. No, not Boston. Actually, it's like we're gonna do this the whole day now. Yeah, that's actually very nice. I'm actually interested in doing this the whole day because I don't know how to get everything pick everybody's brains right now, and I have to divide it between the four of you. Let's go back to the fashion industry. Yeah. So, Mbak Svida, in your experience, what are the biggest challenges working for and developing? Sorry, I mean Dewi, developing these live music events. What changes would you advocate for? What if you could say right now? What would you like changed?
Maybe not change, but improve rather.
Okay.
I think we're missing out on medium scale venues, a capacity of 2,000 to 5,000. Maybe have it, somewhat government and private owned, make it easier, not so expensive for us. A lot of these different places, for example, I went once in Taipei. They had a very nice, cultural center. You can go in and use all facilities built in. It's almost like Tim, but maybe a newer version of it. And then they have smaller. Why does the smaller matter? The smaller are for showcases. This is for the, like you have the young designers. We have young talents. They can't fill up the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 capacities. So we need smaller places, for 500, 300 cap for new talents to just do a show at no cost,
At no cost,
basically.
okay.
And then just get people to come in, have the media come in, so they get the exposure for
Yeah.
it. I think that scale of venue would really help. I think I'm not going to go into certification, but offering pelatihan itu ya,
Yeah.
I think for the workers of the industry would also really help.
Yeah.
Mind you, sebenarnya sekarang some of our people are already being hired to work in Thailand,
other
for
countries,
one-off,
yeah.
for
Oh, really?
sound engineers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So they meet here, like them, get them to go on a tour. It's just it hasn't been exposed, but it's becoming more so now than before. So maybe we need to encourage that more also. Language also helps, right? Sometimes they can do the work, but maybe not so good in the English.
It's a barrier, yeah.
So a lot of things can be done, I think, on that side also in education.
Just curious now, Mbak Svida, when you said you came back from Paris, can you tell us which designers you brought there? Because I heard you brought Nagita Slavina, you said.
Yeah,
and
well,
then-
Nagita Slavina, Mashiro. And Mashiro, by going to Paris, she launched a second line label. This is another thing that why we need training. Because our pricing, kalau kita beli baju di Jakarta tuh murah banget loh. Under 1 million, we can get high quality outfit.
Like my pants, my Shiro.
And that is like about 1 million, right?
Yeah,
Di bawahnya dikit.
a bit, yeah.
Imagine that is equal to 40 euros. 40 euros
It's
dapat
no-
apa?
Yeah, it's nothing there,
And
yeah.
the quality of Mashiro is in the 200 euro. So Mashiro launching another label, namanya Mashiro Attore. And so with better fabric, with better jahitan, well ini aja jahitan Mashiro
this
tuh udah
is already
bagus.
good,
Iya,
yeah.
Mashiro udah bagus. And then selling it wholesale price 40, so that retail price 120 euro. Because Mashiro products kalau di Eropa it's about 100 to 300 euros.
Okay.
And meaning wholesale-nya sepertiganya 30, 40 to 100. So that's how we also allowing the designers to be successful to go abroad is to understand the market that they are looking, the product that they have, how they could leverage the product they have for even better market, better pricing kalau di luar negeri. Biasa makes sense because Biasa price is between 1 million to 6 million, and that's equal to 50 euro to 300 euros. Nagita, she has very successful line NASL, but she brought Nagita Slavina, again pricing between 1 million to 6 million. Tunggu ya, jadi pertanyaannya back to your question, Biasa, Mashiro, Najani, Button Scarves, Kala, and then Moral, and then satu lagi gue lupa, and then two accessories, Round and Von, and then I also bring 3 winners of Fashion Force, Saya Details, Aesthetic Pleasure, and Po. And the 3 young labels, karena baru menang Fashion Force, they got the attraction of, aduh moga-moga ya, boleh nggak ya bilang ya?
You don't want to jinx it?
Ya, soalnya gini, pokoknya one of the top of the world concept store.
Okay. Okay, you don't have to
Naksir
name
sama
it. Yeah,
produknya.
Okay.
And I was just like, hah, kalau
Wow,
sampai
yeah.
terjadi, wow. So those are the things that, yes, but we need to scale up.
Right.
Scale up the products to match the market.
Yeah.
And who can teach us that?
Yeah.
Nobody. Harus orang dari luar negeri karena mereka punya pengalaman.
Yeah.
Budgetnya siapa? Gak ada yang mau.
Yeah.
Nggak naik kelas deh kita.
Naik, Bu, naik.
Yeah.
We are
Amin,
going.
amin.
We just need to keep pushing, yeah. All right, question and answer is here, and I'm going to open 2 to 3 rounds for the session with 2 questions for each round. Please be patient with me because I have this telephone directory and a microphone and a pen to get your questions. So let's have the first round for 2 questions. Let's see. Are we going to get them live here or from the screen? Live, okay. If you would just raise up your hands and yeah, we can start with our question and answer session. Anybody? You can also address it in Indonesian if you want. Yeah, okay, we have one here, and then do we have another one? One more? Not yet? Okay, 2, all right. Your name and where you're from. Also, who are you addressing your question to?
Oke, thank you. Halo semuanya, nama saya Airin. Saya dari Praxis, salah satu konsultan komunikasi.
Sorry,
Mungkin
dari mana?
Praxis, konsultan komunikasi. Ya, pertanyaan saya mungkin buat Mas Angga sama Mas Robi ya. Waktu itu saya kayaknya pernah dengar dari Mas Aldi Haryo Pratomo, katanya film industri di Indonesia itu behind dari US jauh banget. Kalau sama Thailand pun sama South Korea masih jauh. Tapi kan tadi Mas Angga sempat mention ada light in the tunnel somewhere. Dengan segala effort yang sudah dilakukan selama 10 tahun lebih, sekarang posisi film industri itu di mana? Dan bagaimana? Kira-kira butuh waktu berapa lama sih sampai kita bisa ngejar Thailand deh at least. Mungkin Mas Robi juga bisa nambahin kalau ada data terkait itu.
In what corridor are you saying? In sales or in story development
Ya,
or
sales atau ya bahkan kayak
production?
perhatian
Attention,
yes,
global
perhatian
attention.
buat industri film.
Oke, global attentionnya ya. Langsung aja deh, boleh
Saya
ya?
jawab bahasa Indonesia nggak apa ya?
Monggo.
Siapa yang harus bahasa Inggris di sini? Nggak ada kan? Oke.
Mbak Airin dari Praxis.
Oke Mbak Irin, kebetulan Aldi juga komisaris divisi Cinema. Kalau dari Amerika tentu jauh sekali. Tapi dalam 3 tahun terakhir sebetulnya film Indonesia sudah jadi market leader di theatrical. Jadi kita sudah punya market share yang lebih besar, cukup signifikan dari market share film asing. Dan ini sebetulnya inflection point pertama. Itu yang diperlukan to win our own market gitu. Dan presiden ini sebetulnya bukan presiden yang umum di market manapun, hanya di bawah 10 market di mana market ini mempunyai market share lokal film lebih besar daripada film asing. Bisa disebut Amerika tentunya, Cina, Korea Selatan, Jepang, India, Indonesia gitu ya. Bahkan di Malaysia, di Thailand sendiri market share sebetulnya market share film lokalnya lebih rendah dibanding film asing. Jadi ini inflection point pertama. Kita ke arah sana. Apalagi kalau kita lihat market share Korea hari ini di bawah 50% di bawah pre-pandemic. Jadi market film Korea sampai hari ini tuh belum bangkit gitu. Jadi ini potensi sebetulnya. Dan bedanya misalnya sama Thailand sudah bisa ekspor filmnya ke regional. Korea sudah bisa ekspornya filmnya ke global bahkan. Tapi itu dilakukan memang pekerjaan rumah yang sudah mereka lakukan 20 tahun terakhir. Mungkin kalau Indonesia baru mulai post pandemic gitu. Jadi kita masih punya journey yang cukup panjang, tapi mungkin nggak perlu 20 tahun gitu ya. Kuncinya sebetulnya adalah bagaimana pertama inclusivity. Inclusivity ini banyak aspeknya, bukan cuman sekedar bagaimana kita bisa mendapatkan industrinya bisa lebih sophisticated dalam raising capital gitu. Tapi juga bagaimana industrinya punya inclusivity untuk bring new talent and give new talent a platform to grow. Dan itu yang dilakukan sama Visinema. Visinema itu enggak one man show. Kalau kita lihat kebanyakan film company di Indonesia fokus sama satu orang. Kalau saya mungkin hadir di sini as a spokesperson Visinema aja, tapi di Visinema Jumbo itu saya sama sekali nggak punya. Mungkin saya di Jumbo itu punya influence kreatif cuma 5%.
Really?
Ya, sisanya adalah saya bisnis strateginya yang saya atur. Jadi produsernya, direkturnya itu bukan nggak ada sayanya. 70% dari box office Visinema itu nggak ada keterlibatannya saya sebetulnya. Secara kreatif dan secara produksi gitu. Jadi kami sudah berhasil membuat Visinema sebagai satu ekosistem kreatif yang inklusif. Jumbo itu direkturnya, sutradaranya first time. It's a first time director.
Yeah.
2 produsernya nurture di Visinema. Jadi 1 dari anak magang bahkan. Kemudian jadi produser. Program kayak yang kami lakukan untuk merekrut Rian saat itu sebagai sutradaranya Jumbo, itu kita lakukan di banyak tempat. Salah satunya Rian itu sedang belajar S2 animation di Rochester. Saya undang Rian untuk gabung ke Visinema. Saya bilang, jangan kerja animasi di luar, karena dia udah dapat tawaran dari DreamWorks, dari segala macam. Saya bilang ke Indonesia aja, emang Mas Angga mau janjiin apa? Let's make something yang kita bisa compete di global gitu. Jadi selama 3 tahun pertama sebetulnya yang dilakukan sama Jumbo adalah kita gather the animation Avengers di Indonesia. Jadi kita scouting siapa yang lighting, composition and rendering terbaik, siapa namanya Gary ada, kita rekrut. Terus apa namanya character design, siapa yang terbaik kita rekrut. Jadi Visinema hari ini sebetulnya punya satu tim animasi yang Avengers di semua aspeknya. Terus contohnya di Visinema kami nggak cuman fokus sama creative side, tapi untuk bisa punya ekosistem dan industri kreatif yang kuat, kita juga butuh eksekutifnya. Nggak cuman orang yang tukang bikin, tapi orang yang manage, orang yang jual, orang yang ngerti investment, yang ngerti bahasa investmentnya. Nih di ujung nih ada Patrick nih. Patrick berdiri deh, Pat. Patrick ini tim bisnis strategi sama investment di Indonesia. Dia dari Amerika, kerjanya tadi di Netflix di Amerika, gitu. Tapi ya gitu karena Visinema orang udah lihat bahwa ini bukan cuma Angga, it's a big vision, bigger than myself gitu. Jadi kita bisa attract orang-orang. Saya ingat banget saya di masa pandemi saya punya session sama Mbak Svida di Endeavor. Mbak Svida nanya masalahnya apa? Saya waktu itu bilang konten anak di Indonesia itu sedikit, nggak banyak. Dari Mbak terus saya lahir dari stasiun sama Mbak kita lahirin Domikado namanya, gitu. Waktu itu udah ada Jumbo udah ya, tapi kita lahirin Domikado. Domikado tuh kalau teman-teman lihat sebetulnya IP kayak Sesame Street, tapi untuk Indonesia. Jumbo dan Domikado yang saya bikin itu attract Harry Salim, country director Disney Indonesia untuk keluar dari Disney dan masuk ke Visinema, bangun Visinema Studios. It's like Indonesian, hopefully bakal jadi Indonesian Disney in the next 5 years gitu.
Right.
Jadi kita punya banyak sekali potensinya, dan yang paling menarik adalah kita tuh dalam fase early stage. Jadi room to growth-nya masih besar, dan kalau kita mau bikin sesuatu yang groundbreaking, potensinya masih banyak gitu. Kalau saya hari ini besar di Amerika, saya nggak mungkin bisa bikin Jumbo karena sudah ada Pixar 25 tahun yang lalu gitu. Tapi kalau saya hari ini mau cukup gila, bikin hal-hal baru, banyak hal yang bisa dilakukan untuk bikin groundbreaking. Dan dengan bikin groundbreaking, nggak cuman idenya besar ya, tapi berhasil mengeksekusinya dengan cara yang excellent. Kita gampang banget langsung jadi frontliner, jadi industry leader, dan punya gap sama number 2-nya jauh kalau kita berani dan bisa execute-nya secara excellent gitu.
So we're not far behind. That was her
We're not far
question.
behind. And seperti Mbak Fitsbida bilang tadi, there's opportunity sebetulnya. Setelah pandemi itu global industry recalibrate.
Justru ya.
Iya, recalibrate. Dan sebetulnya bagaimana sekarang kita bisa attract capital buat masuk. Salah satunya mungkin ya create stability gitu. Yang saya bilang tadi sama cultural economy dan harus dilihat sama pemerintah, baik pemerintah pusat maupun pemerintah daerah, adalah ini soft power. Ini bukan cuma GDP. Mungkin sekarang kita berapa? 10%, 11% jauh sekali dengan nikel, jauh sekali dengan batu bara mungkin, jauh sekali dengan palm oil. Tapi ini soft power. Ini yang akan menentukan Indonesia yang mereka bilang 2045 gitu. Seberapa kita mau fokus sama soft power ini dan menjadikan soft power ini produk and service yang bisa dinikmatin oleh local marketnya, kuat di local marketnya, dan mampu kita bawa ke global market gitu.
Yeah. Mas Robi, do you want to add something?
Mungkin dikit aja nambahin Mas Angga. Kalau ngelihat perbedaan tadi pertanyaannya US sama Indonesia filmmakernya, saya nge-quote postingan Pak Ricky Pesik di Instagramnya.
Okay.
Dia ada data, paling gampang tuh ngeliat perbandingan layar sebenarnya. US itu ada satu layar untuk 8.874 orang, satu layar. Di Indonesia 141.750 per satu layar. Jadi layar kita aja nggak cukup buat filmmaker kita. Jadi sebenarnya opportunity-nya adalah ada layar-layar baru sebenarnya. Paling edan sih sebenarnya sih China ya, ada 86.000 layar. Indonesia baru cuma 2.000. So the opportunity to grow itu masih significantly very very high sebenarnya. Jadi kalau dibilang ketinggalan, justru room to growth-nya yang gila-gila sebenarnya itu sih.
Coba bayangin kalau setiap pasar jaya di atasnya ada bioskop untuk market yang lebih, yang misalnya
That's a
harganya
nice way to look at it. Yeah,
20
juga ya.
ribuan gitu.
Yeah.
Jadi jangan selalu berpikir bahwa bikin bioskop itu harus di mall gitu.
Iya.
Gimana caranya pemerintah daerah daripada gedung-gedung itu nggak kepake, dijadiin creative hub.
Yeah.
Jadi ada bioskop, jadi ada another
Performing hall.
Yeah.
Concert
performing
hall,
segala
Concert
macam.
hall.
Nah sebetulnya, nah itu dia, kita punya gap yang cukup jauh antara private sektornya sama governmentnya.
Right.
Nah governmentnya ini yang harus keep up dengan private sektornya. Nggak cuman paham sama kebutuhan kami.
We should have someone from the government, yeah.
Iya, nggak cuman
on the
paham,
panel, ya.
nggak cuman paham sama kebutuhan industrinya,
Iya.
tapi apa yang bisa dijadikan solusi oleh government.
Yeah.
Contohnya misalnya gini, kenapa sih nggak setiap cultural event, karena kita masih dalam early stage ini, kenapa nggak setiap cultural event pemerintah daerah nggak usah lah ngambil pajak reklame?
Yeah.
Pajak reklama ambil aja dari rokok, dari elektronik, dari segala macam.
Yeah,
Masa kalau cultural eventnya
Naik, ya.
di apa namanya di moratorium apa namanya pajak reklamanya, kita akan punya lebih kemampuan untuk dorong budget promotion and advertising
promo,
kita lebih gede.
Yeah.
Dengan PNA effort yang lebih gede, maka touch point terhadap produk kultural itu lebih banyak.
Right.
Kalau tadinya kita cuma mampu pasang 2 billboard, kalau misalnya itu di moratorium mungkin kita bisa pasang 10 billboard. Semua orang bisa lihat, oh ada Java Jazz, oh ada Jakarta Fashion Week. Jadi nggak cuma berkutat sama yang ada di apa namanya market, apa namanya captive marketnya aja, tapi selalu bisa growing the market. Ini kenapa kita coba dan ini struggling sekali sebetulnya soal performing arts. Kami satu-satunya perusahaan di Indonesia yang bisa bikin yang bukan yang mau bikin musikal Keluarga Cemara itu 1 bulan penuh.
Right.
Kenapa 1 bulan penuh kita bikin? Karena kalau kita cuma bikin over the weekend itu nggak jadi industri,
Yeah.
akhirnya jadi hobis dan yang nonton dia lagi. Tapi kalau kita mau bikin, kalau kita mau expand the market,
You grab.
dan
Yang
selain
luarnya.
expand the market, tapi bikin orang yang kerja di dalam produksi ini punya penghasilan yang cukup untuk hidup, bisa make living, ya kita harus scale the production. Kita harus scale eventnya. Tapi ya setengah mati,
Yeah.
karena biaya produksinya udah gede banget ya tadi kayak Mbak Dewi bilang, ini akhirnya sponsor. Biaya produksinya sudah besar, karena venue-nya mahal banget gitu. Terus orangnya juga mahal karena ya mereka living cost-nya di Jakarta. Lalu kemudian nggak bisa jual tiket mahal, ya struggling. Tapi kalau nggak bisa 1 bulan penuh atau 2 bulan penuh, saya rasa musical stage nggak akan pernah bisa jadi industri.
Yeah. Okay, I hope that answers your question and a bit more actually ya. Sebelah sana tadi I saw Mas pakai baju biru. Ya.
Halo.
Nama and where you from and who is your question directed to?
Halo, nama saya Rizky Rajasa. Saya dari KTM Solutions, consulting company. Aku mau nanya ke Bu Svida. Kalau in fashion, mostly in retail, kayak dia bisa produksi banyak dengan jual murah. Itu kan beberapa dari mereka sunset gitu bisnisnya. Nah, jadi aku mau tahu, as you mentioned before, itu kita harus punya standar something atau inovasi something. Aku mau tanya, apakah innovation is the only solution untuk industri itu? If yes or no, why? Gitu.
Wow.
Rizky.
Interesting. Innovation is the only solution. Is it the only solution? No. We live with tradition. We live with heritage. How we can find a balance between innovation and celebrating our culture, that is Indonesia. When we celebrate Indonesia, I think the key is that. Tapi bukan artinya setiap desainer harus bikin baju batik, karena saya juga nggak bisa pakai baju batik somehow. Tapi I love baju tenun kain, kain-kain dari Flores atau dari Sumatera. Apa namanya? We have our tradition, we have our culture. Itu satu sekolah sendiri yang harus kita jaga. We have our designers. Ini satu sekolah yang tadi saya bilang sekarang sekolah semakin marak. Ada sekolah yang memang untuk creativity, ada sekolah yang untuk management the fashion industry itself. And now the garment industry actually mulai menerima order dari para designers yang kelas orderannya, kelas marketnya sudah seluruh Indonesia. You name it, mostly modest wear. Kami, button scarves, aduh gua jelek banget memorinya. Apa namanya, the modest wear itu mereka tuh Dian Pelangi, mereka tuh mempunyai market seluruh Indonesia. Jadi ordernya tuh dari ribuan. So they cannot just have like tukang jahit di belakang. They need to work with garment factory. They need to work with textile factory. So kembali lagi pertanyaan, is innovation there? Of course, we need to work with semuanya, textile, garment, and melihat bahwa fashion industry itu selalu evolve, and kita juga harus up to date. tentunya innovation dalam textile industry juga perlu ada. Mulutnya Swida mulai lagi. Jadi textile industry di Indonesia inovasinya kurang. Kurang beli mesin baru. I mean we know Sritex ada masalah, ya sebetulnya mereka masalahnya karena mereka tidak menginnovate dirinya. Tidak menginnovate dengan mesin-mesin terbaru.
Nggak keep up with the trends ya.
Jadinya kainnya siapa yang mau, orang sekarang kita udah ke arah tech performance fabric, di sana masih bikin rayon. I mean, I'm trying, itu terlalu ekstrim ya. Tetapi kira-kira begitulah. Sritex kerjaannya bikin seragam polisi. Nah seragam kain polisi kan mana bisa untuk jadi baju kita-kita kan.
Yeah. Yeah. That's okay.
But true, that's we have to evolve. Apakah musik, apakah film, semuanya harus evolve. Dan dalam evolusi itu kita melihat opportunity yang terbaik dan harus ngelihat benchmarknya ke kelas dunia. So that we can grow locally and we are ready for going internationally. And pasar lokal kita tidak dihantam internasional karena kita masih jalan di tempat.
Yeah.
Gitu.
And not-
Setuju kan Mas Angga ya?
And to not forget to celebrate our heritage.
Yes, of
Itu ya,
course.
satu
That's
hal
the
yang penting.
fusion that is so uniquely Indonesia.
Yeah, so we don't lose identity. That's
Dan itu
another
mungkin blueprintnya nggak bisa sekedar nyontek koka, taka, karena itu semuanya monoculture. Kalau kita ngelihat Korea, kita ngelihat Jepang, mereka lebih monoculture. Kita pusing loh, Indonesia tuh culture-nya banyak. Nah bagaimana kita menjaga, nah itu semoga masing-masing daerah bisa mengambil posisi untuk menjaga budayanya. Dekranasda, Dewan Kerajinan Nasional Daerah.
Okay, I'm going to open the next round. So if you have questions, I haven't seen from the people right here. I'm sorry, you have been watching my back. So ada di sini? Anybody wants to ask questions? We have one here and another one here. Okay, mikrofon sebelah sini dulu. Boleh dengan Mas siapa dari mana?
Halo, saya Alain dari The New Factory.
Alain?
Alain. Sebuah fashion Alain ya.
Français.
Namanya Perancis, nggak bisa bahasa Perancis. Saya dari The New Factory, sebuah fashion upcycling lab dari Bandung. Jadi kita adalah sebuah koperasi pekerja garment. Jadi kita punya fokus di upcycling limbah tekstil. Nah ini mungkin pertanyaan yang agak spesifik untuk Bu Swida. Saya ingin bertanya soal sustainability karena ngomongin thriving, ngomongin future, kita pasti berbicara tentang sustainability. Nggak cuma soal ekonomi tapi juga soal lingkungan, soal pekerja. Yang ini pasti menjadi isu yang sangat besar ya di dunia fashion. Tapi saya rasa di Indonesia masih sangat jarang tersentuh gitu. Terutama di level masyarakat mainstream, masyarakat umum. Ada nggak sih upaya atau rencana dari Ibu Svida terutama melalui JFW untuk membangun awareness dan membangun program-program mengenai ini? Terima kasih.
Okay, Alain from
Alain.
Bandung.
From Bandung.
Bandung.
Paris from Java. Jadi soal ethical fashion, sustainability fashion, sebetulnya kita paling sustain loh. Baju kita diwarisin bisa dari kita ke sini.
The hand-me-downs.
Hands down-nya tuh panjang, itu kan sustainability story. Tetapi memang kalau unfortunately selain kita bisa manage sampah fashion kita dengan baik, kita kena sampah fashion dunia. What to do with it? Ya semoga there will be some innovator dari dunia fashion yang bisa. Selain kita bisa stop itu sampah, tapi kita juga semoga juga banyak cara untuk kita recycle, upcycle sampah tersebut. Unfortunately tidak ada incentives ketika kita mesti competitively pricing jadi susah, ya kan? Jadi saya suka sampai bilang gini, aduh kalau in the name of sustainability mesti bikin kain pel, ya nggak bisa. Kan kalau kain dirajut kembali jadi kayak kain pel. Gimana ini mau jadi yang mahal. Tetapi kalau memang kita dengan the right equipment di Kementerian Perindustrian sebetulnya bagian UMKM juga membantu loh. Itu membuat
upcycle sampah-sampah fashion menjadi fabric itu bisa. Jadinya semoga ketika Anda tanya Jakarta Fashion Week platform bagaimana, Jakarta Fashion Platform is a platform to amplify. So when there are stories, we will tell the stories. Misalnya cerita sejauh mata memandang dan sebagainya. Jadi ya mungkin panjang itu jawabannya, tetapi we are definitely pro for sustainability and ethical fashion.
Are we heading there though?
So,
Yeah.
ya.
Okay.
Kita secara alami kita udah kan.
Udah, ya, yang hand me down tadi pakai kebayanya nenek,
Iya.
ya. But then we shop for other stuff too, and we hoard at the end of the day. Jadi itu
Iya.
another thing lagi ya.
Ya kalau lo mau dibilang H&M itu fast fashion, di gua enggak. H&M 3 tahun
Dipakai
masih
terus,
dipakai
iya,
terus.
benar. I guess it's how we approach it ya,
Ya.
along the Bandung. Hatur nuhun. Thank you very much. Punten ya, iya mah heureuy we hoy. Oke. And Bapak tadi, ya boleh mikrofonnya. Nama?
Hello, I have a question. Maybe it's for Mas Angga.
And your name?
My
please,
name
sir?
is Daniel. I am from Sinarmas.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's say we live in an ideal world where the government is like a genie, probably, and he gives you 3 wishes. For specifically for the film industry, like, let's say for example, the first one, there needs. You mentioned Disney before. Let's say we have a movie lot or infrastructure, the proper infrastructure to support filmmaking. Would it be one of them, or would it be more heavy on the incentives from the government? Let's say the government gives you 3 wishes. What would it be? Thank you.
3 wishes.
First, revise the law.
Sorry, specifically, like
Yeah.
which law?
Revise the UU perfilman, undang-undang perfilman dan undang-undang hak cipta. Itu pertama, karena jinnya pemerintah kan?
Yes.
Ya, oke.
Blue pemerintah.
So revise the law, karena itu penting sekali. Itu yang mendasari banyak problem hari ini soal tata kelola,
Yeah.
perpajakan. Film Indonesia itu satu-satunya industri di dunia yang kena double tax. Jadi kita bayar pajak daerah, kita bayar PPN, gitu. Kalau
Yeah.
jadi kita bayar pajak, jadi dari tiket kita bayar pajak daerah. Nanti waktu pas kita dapat pendapatan dari tiket, kita kena PPN lagi, jadi double tax. Itu nggak terjadi di film Indonesia, di industri manapun. Bentar lagi WAMI nih datang minta 2% dari musik. Padahal kita udah licensing, gitu. Jadi gitu deh.
Terus
Mendingan
kita
saya berhenti.
nggak
Oke,
transparan
2,
juga itu
ya,
kemana ya?
ya.
Jinnya bingung langsung.
Ya. Jadi punya law yang modern lah, yang bisa keep up dengan apa yang hari ini. Kedua mungkin punya financial policy yang sophisticated. Bagaimana perbankan bisa masuk ke kreatif ekonomi, ke industri kreatif gitu. Kayak misalnya saya punya Mencuri Raden Saleh, film pertamanya 2,3 juta penonton. Maksudnya film itu menghasilkan 60 miliar, diproduksi dengan 20 miliar. Udah kelihatan dong ROI-nya. Kalau saya mau bikin kedua, masa saya nggak bisa dapat 10 miliar dari bank? Misalnya gimana saya bisa dapat model seperti itu, gitu. Karena di negara maju financing sourcingnya udah sophisticated, itu yang bikin mereka maju sekali. Ketiga, insentifnya sebetulnya kalau saya bilang insentifnya kepada industrinya itu mungkin ad hoc. Oke, untuk berapa saat. Habis itu industrinya mesti fair dong, kalau udah maju ngikutin yang lain. Tapi gimana buat sustain? Kasih insentif ke the 1% yang mau jadi patron di industri kebudayaan. Gitu. yang kita nggak punya hari ini tuh patronage. Saya beruntung ada family office Jarum ada di Visinema sebagai equity shareholder gitu. Tapi siapa yang lain? Siapa yang fokus sama yang punya itu sama. Dan kalau kita ngelihat semua negara maju itu patronage. India itu Reliance masuk ke industri filmnya, makanya jadi kayak sekarang. Mereka bikin Geostar kerjasama sama Disney. CJ Entertainment Korea itu keluarga Samsung. Mikey Lee invest pertama kali ke DreamWorks-nya DreamWorks-nya Spielberg, lalu pulang bawa semua knowledge dari investment mereka di DreamWorks, lalu bikin CJ Entertainment, belakangnya Samsung. Kalau hari ini Demon Slayer bisa kemana-mana dan bisa punya billions of dollar on revenue, it's because of Sony. Go in that space. Beli Crunchyroll, beli semua, beli the entire verticalnya anime, bener kan? Gitu. Terus kalau kita lihat China dengan gamingnya, itu karena Tencent masuk ke sana. Sekarang di Indonesia, saya mau tanya, konglomerat kita siapa yang masuk? Karena Mas Sinar Mas, jadi saya ngomongnya gini. Jadi
Is that your third wish?
Yes, maksudnya dan Masnya akan jawab, Mas siapa Mas? Mas Daniel akan jawab ya, gue nggak, kalau kesana gue nggak dapat insentif dari pemerintah, ya udah kasih lah pemerintah insentif. Bikin gedung pertunjukan kayak Walt Disney di Los Angeles gitu, bikin museum art kayak di sampingnya Disney itu yang Cube itu saya lupa. Tapi kita nggak punya kesana, kita nggak punya patronage. Jadi tanpa patronage ini kita semua adalah pertempuran UMKM. Udah nih UMKM aja udah nggak ada. Kalau kita patronage bisa dapat tax incentive gitu. 3 aja. Jadi intinya adalah punya jin yang punya literasi terhadap apa yang sedang kita butuhkan dan kita lakukan.
So identitas dan pengetahuan jinnya lebih penting daripada permintaannya, right?
Iya gitu.
Gitu.
Jadi nggak ada nih
Daniel.
semua. Kalau kita mau ke luar negeri, kita mau ke industri. Kayak misalnya contohnya LVMH itu investornya tadinya bukan investor fashion.
Iya.
Dia conglomerate company yang ngelihat industri
Ada,
fashion terus dia beli,
iya,
terus dia
kesempatan.
konsolidasi. At the end of the day, kalau kita mau lihat cultural product kita gede di Indonesia dan kita bisa punya di luar, there is no other way unless we can do consolidation play.
Tuh ada yang ngasih logo X di belakang.
Nggak boleh.
Oh, oke. Ya, ya.
Oh,
Nggak,
nggak
bukan,
boleh kesana.
nggak boleh.
Mas,
Time,
oh,
time.
oke.
It's time. Ya, jangan sensitif Mas. It's okay. Justru acara ini it is for this exact reason. Thank you very much. Pak diperpanjang ya. Injury time ya. Ibu ada pertanyaan? Ya, kepengen perpanjang ya. Oke, oke. A little bit of insight untuk teman-teman organizers ya. But I have been given the time code and we need to end it. Jadi sekali lagi, let's give a round of applause for our panelists. I think that was a fun fireside chat. Fire on the side, I think that means ya. Thank you so much Pak Robi, Pak Angga, Ibu Dewi, Ibu Svida. Let's all stand up and have a round of applause for our speakers. And you may return to your seats. Terima kasih. Foto dulu? Oke, foto dulu. Foto dulu sebentar ya. Foto. Please don't leave the room just yet. There's just one more video for you to watch in a bit. But we will just take, okay, maju dulu ya. Ada urutan bagaimana harus berdiri? Rapat lagi kali ya kalau bisa ya. Thank you. Terima kasih. You may return to your seats. And before we close for today, I have a video for us all to watch. So if we're ready, I think we're ready. Can we please play the video before we end today's discussion? Thank you very much.
Now we have RIFE. At the end of GIF 2025 event series, I welcome you to collaborate with us and foster Jakarta to be a better city for all. See you at the next Jakarta Investment Festival. Invest now, invest Jakarta.
On behalf of the Jakarta Provincial Government, I would like to say thank you for being part of the GIF 2025. Let's continue this momentum by investing smart to achieve Jakarta vision as a global city. Invest now, invest Jakarta.
Right. Thank you very much once again. And with that, we bring our event to a close. Thank you very much for your attendance and your interest in today's discussions. On behalf of the Jakarta Provincial Government, we'd like to extend our sincere thanks to our partners who made today possible. Jakarta Creative Economy Committee, V-Cinema Group, Jaya Festival Production, Global Creative Media, and Jakarta Fashion Week. We are deeply grateful for your support in creating a space where innovation, responsibility, and impact can come together. So to everyone who has attended today, thank you again for spending the day with us. We hope you leave inspired and even, I would go on to say, fired up, yeah? After our conversations, equipped with new ideas, and connected to people who share your passion for building Jakarta an inclusive and livable city. My name is Sophie Navida. Once again, thank you very much. See you at the next Jakarta Investment Festival. Invest Jakarta. Selamat siang. Drive safe.